Hey guys, Coach Adam from TeamElitePhysique.com talking to you again today. The day after the Olympia, this is the Olympia recap video. I have never had so many people in my DMs asking me to do a recap video pretty much ever. There is so much controversy with this year's Olympia. I'm going to go into it. I was obviously there, saw it firsthand. I'm going to give you my insight to it and what this means for a bikini. So as I said, my last video, I could put these whole high production videos together, or I could just do them quickly day after show. Everyone said day after show. I had like 60 plus people. So thanks guys for in the comments saying, hey, just do it like this, do it freestyle. We want to get the video. We want to see the videos. So I'm just going to do them like this after the pictures come out. It's a lot easier for me, and thank you guys for the support on that. So let's go ahead and go into, first let's go into the show. Let's go into how everything went at the show. A lot of you didn't have the pay-per-view and or weren't at the show and didn't see it. So let's go ahead and go into that first and how the call-outs went and everything. So I have here pulled up, I'm just going to click through the pictures. This is the first call-out. So, usual suspects in the call-out. You have Ashley, Amy, Vanya, Maureen, Jazzy, Ivana, Laura Lee, and Ashlyn in that first call-out. There's an 8-person first call-out there. And this is before anyone got moved. So I'm going to go through the pictures and kind of show the movement of the day before we jump into the actual breakdowns of the physiques. If you want to see the breakdowns of the physiques, go ahead and skip ahead here. But, so let's go ahead and click through and see where the initial movements happen. Usually they'll compare them front and back. Before the initial movements, you can see Laura Lee got moved right in right away. Laura Lee moved from the outside into position. Traded with Vanya there at first. So, right now, this is the middle. You can see Maureen went right to the middle. Jazzy was right to the middle. And then Laura Lee got moved one outside of Maureen. When we look at the next movement, we see Amy moved over with, did she move over with Evie? Yeah, Amy moved in with Evie here. On the next movement, they turned them around. And this is where everything kind of gets a little controversial because there's a lot of different physiques in this. That's the one thing in this with this Olympia. There's a lot of different physiques in this first Olympia. You could look at when you look at these competitors. You look at Evie, she's shredded, right? You look at Ashley's a good balance of bikini. She's not too lean, not too soft. Laura Lee is very soft. Maureen is softer and doesn't have the density of someone like of Ivana, of Ashley, of Jazzy, of Amy, of Ashlyn. Just a totally different physique in terms of the density and the conditioning too. Or I guess I don't know if it's so much the conditioning. I mean, she's a little bit softer, but it's just like the density, the muscle size. So it's like a totally different physique. There's a lot of different physiques in bikini. And that's not going to be like the first time we've seen that. That's definitely a common thing in bikini, especially when you get to the Olympia. We used to see a lot more of blending physiques. Like you would see when Laura Lee and Jennifer and Issa were in like the top 5. Like those physiques don't even make sense together. Issa is shredded, petite with an X frame. Jennifer is super curvy and round with a curvy hourglass shape and not too much conditioning. Laura Lee would be like in the middle where she's a little bit softer, but not as soft as Jennifer, with more of an hourglass shape. But, Jennifer and Laura Lee both don't have, back then didn't have like super defined tie-ins. And then you have Janet in there with crazy tie-ins. So it's not uncommon to see different physiques in bikini at that top level. But this show in particular was definitely a little more eye-opening, and people kind of we're talking about it. And the internet right now, I will say this, the internet is spicy right now. And they're always spicy, I guess, after an Olympia win. So, all right, let's go ahead and go into more of the movement. So as you see, Maureen's in the middle with Jazzy. Ashley is one outside of Laura Lee at this point. They turn them again. This was a long call out. They turned them again. I think they walked them a couple times. Let's just click through these pictures here. No movement yet. Okay, here we go. We had some movement here. Ashlyn gets moved in for Laura Lee. And this is like the first sign that Laura Lee was fading, right? We're like, oh, wow, Laura Lee is not going to be in that, she's not going to be the Olympia champion again. Now, when she first came out, it was obvious that she was a lot softer. We'll go into her physique later. It was just, it looks like, I don't think it was a peak week thing. I think she just, missed her conditioning. It looks beyond a peak week. So now it's Ashlyn's in there fighting with Maureen and Amy for that, trying to get into that top 2 spot with Jazzy too, and she's fighting right now for 3rd and 4th. Then we get some more movement. Let's click through and see this movement again. I think this is where the movement happens. Because at one point, yeah, Ashley gets moved in for Amy. Okay, so Amy gets moved out, which looks like she's going to be in that. She gets moved. Oh, no, I guess they're comparing Ashley to Laura Lee here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm doing the math here. No, I'm sorry, that was right, yeah. Ashley was in that top 4 group because now here you have Maureen, Jazzy, Ashlyn got moved over here. Amy got moved outside. She traded with Ashley, and now Ashley's sitting in that top 4 spot, right? So she's being compared to Jazzy. They're going back and forth compared to Laura Lee here too. Maybe that was a direct comparison. We don't always know what the movements mean, but it did look like she was in that 4th spot for a while and actually held that spot for a long time. And then at a certain point, the next movement happened after the walk. And this is where a lot of the girls will shine, is in this walk. Ashley's one that shines in this walk where she will show the density. Like the density will be there and more apparent with Ashley. And there's a couple things. Now, I will say too, like let's go ahead and go into the walk, because the walk really does define a lot of these things for bikini. When we're talking about the walk here, when we look at the glute density, Ashley does, and I know I'm her coach, guys. I'm Ashley's coach, and I'm trying not to be biased. I'm just going to say it how it is. All right? And I'm going to say it as I'm just not Ashley's coach. Ashley's density and Amy's density in that back walk are the best out of the lineup here. Sorry, I know it's weird when I'm the coach, but that's just the truth of it. Amy's density looked crazy good. And this is the thing. When you see Ashlyn walk, when you see Maureen walk, when you see Laura Lee walk, you'll see a gap of the upper mid glutes here. You'll see a lot of separation in this upper line here. And I don't know if we'll be able to see it in a picture, but this is an area where they can all use when they're walking. Evie's isn't so bad. And you know what? Off the top of my head, I don't want to speak on Jazzy's because I don't recall it. I was watching, but I don't recall it. I'm going to maybe look at the pictures, and I don't want to say that about her. That's just something I was seeing in Ashlyn's physique. When she's walking, you can see that upper, like that middle area of that glute. Right here, have that separation line that you don't see with Amy. Amy's glutes stay full the whole way through. Ashley's glutes stay full the whole way through in that walk. You could see that even Vaughn, you can even see in the back pose, has that separation line right here. And Laura Lee has always had that. That's like the one flaw in Laura Lee, is that her glute, that upper glute separation, that upper glute density isn't there compared to someone like an Ashley or an Amy. And even when Ashlyn's in her back pose, like when she's in her back pose, when Jazzy's in her back pose, you don't see that separation line so much, but in the walk, you can't hide it. And this is really where Laura Lee, when she walked, you could really see the softness in her glutes. I mean, it was really, really soft. And, I'm never going to be, I always want to be honest with this stuff, guys. I always want to be like fair and honest. First, let me start off with this. I will say this. Ashley wasn't her best Ashley. I will say Ashley was like at 96, 95%, which is pretty darn good. It's pretty good. I think she could have been a little bit tighter in the glutes, but not much. Honestly, it wasn't much. Like, when you look at the conditioning in bikini, it's not like you have to nail a conditioning. You have to nail a range. And that's the thing about bikini. It's a range of conditioning. Too tight is way over here. Too soft is way over here. All of this is acceptable in bikini. She's in that range. She's a little bit on the softer end of that range, but she's definitely well within range. Here's the thing. In terms of Ashley's physique, I would have liked her to been a little bit leaner maybe like a week ago, so we could have fed her into the show and like filled her out a little bit more to give her a little bit of a harder, more dense look. But you need to be leaner to be able to afford those carb loads. And every prep's going to be different. This one, she was right on pace. She wasn't like way ahead, so we didn't get that heavy carb load that we usually do. So the pop probably wasn't there as much, but honestly, it was a pretty damn good package. Like, if you look at the conditioning, she's harder than Maureen, harder than Laura Lee, harder than Vanya, about the same as Amy, and Amy always brings just a tad softer conditioning. About the same as Amy, softer than Ashlyn, softer than Jazzy. So she's in that, we call that, that middle bear conditioning. What do they say? The porridge is too hot, the porridge is too cold, right in the middle. That's like the Goldilocks, or she calls it the Goldilocks conditioning level. So she's in that range. Yeah, maybe a tiny bit harder would have been better. So I want to say that first, because I don't want to look like, hey, I'm Ashley's coach and I'm just bashing other people. I will say this, Laura Lee's conditioning, it definitely wasn't like a peak week scenario. That is just, there's a body fat issue, and then there's like a spillover issue. This is a body fat issue. The body fat was not reached for the Olympia level. There's big difference of conditioning for, hey, I spilled over a little bit, and hey, I'm 2 weeks out from the show. This is more like, hey, I'm 2 weeks out from the show, and, she just didn't bring her conditioning. And, maybe that's, maybe it has to do with the pressure of being the O champion, That's the thing about Laura Lee. It's, in her entire career, I don't think so much it's ever been like, girls are so much better than Laura Lee, they're beating Laura Lee. More times than not, Laura Lee's beating Laura Lee. That's the issue with Laura Lee. It's like, what Laura Lee's going to show up? If she shows up 100%, she's like, she might be impossible to beat if she shows up 100%. The problem is that she has huge fluctuations in how she shows up, and you can see it over the years. Just, her placings. It's like she goes for it, nails it, crushes everyone, perfect score, or it's 4th place, 5th place, 6th place, that type of thing. So, and I think this is just one of those scenarios. It's, and she created some room. I'll say this too with Ashley. If she was 100% at this show, I honestly don't know if there was any way she could have beat Maureen. I honestly don't. That's something I told Ashley too. I was like, hey, even if you were like, I think your package was crazy good. It was like 96%. Like, it wasn't your absolute best, but it was pretty darn close. But even if you were your best, I don't think there's a way to beat Maureen, because Maureen's physique isn't, like, you're already past that in terms of your muscle development, your density, your conditioning. Like, you're already past that. So if you got even better, it's not going to change anything. If they like Maureen, they like Maureen. It's not, there's nothing you could really do about it, And I was telling one of the coaches too, one of the other girls, I was like, hey, your girls are already past that physique. Like, what are you going to do to beat Maureen if you're already way past her in terms of your development, your conditioning, your tie-ins, your density, like everything so far past her? What do? Change her whole body to like downgrade her body to be more competitive with Maureen to beat her? Like, you're going to lose there too. You're not going to look, you're just going to go down. So just keep it here, and if they like her one day, they like her one day. Nothing you can really do, right? So it's just one of those scenarios where, hey, they like Maureen. It's Maureen's show, It's just, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and go into some other pictures now. And we'll go here one by one on the physiques and kind of give them a little bit of a breakdown. So, we already talked about Laura Lee. There's not really too much, honestly, to say about Laura Lee. Laura Lee beats Laura Lee. That's what happened. That's really what happened here. Is she going to come back now and do the Arnold and get her title back and start gaining momentum for next year? It's not like her physique needs a whole bunch of work. She just needs to come in condition. She could diet for 2 more weeks and win the Olympia if the Olympia was 2 weeks later. It is what it is. It's not, it's not her physique. She's still got the crazy physique. Awesome shoulders, awesome development, great hourglass shape. The from the front, like that glute profile, like that's crazy town, right? Who beats her from the front? And it was just, it's just her conditioning. Laura Lee beat Laura Lee at the Olympia. That's what it was, And, she paid a pretty heavy price for just missing her conditioning levels. And if you guys look at the pictures here, and never do I want to be a mean or a jerk, but I honestly don't, with how soft her conditioning was, I don't think if she was the returning champion, she would have been in the top 10. It's, even though her lines and structure are so good, the conditioning was pretty far off. So, it is what it is. Who knows what was going on? It could have been, who knows? Maybe she got sick. Maybe, I don't know the scenario. Maybe it just wasn't, could have been the stress of the show. She couldn't sleep. Who knows? But the conditioning it just wasn't there. It's what it came down to. It really isn't anything, like there's no magic reason. It's just she was not in shape. That's really it. I think, her posing was fine. She didn't have the same spark. I think when she came out, she knew like she wasn't in her best shape. She didn't have her Laura Lee fire that she usually has too. Still had one of the best posing routines. And next year she'll be a contender again, and she could probably win it again next year if she comes in shape. She didn't like degrade her physique or anything like that. It's not regressed. It's just soft. That's it. All right, so looking at Ashley, obviously Ashley was second place last year, got fifth place this year. Just so you guys are aware, we are very happy with the fifth place. Anytime she can get a first call out, it's the Olympia, guys, and you got to understand, in bikini, there's going to be some weird things that happen in bikini all the time. I don't know this year, this scenario. I can only make my assumptions, and when Tyler does his video, he'll give a better reasoning for everything. I'm going to make my assumptions, and we'll see. But I assume that something else will be said. But yeah, there's a lot of spice right now and everything. But anyway, going into Ashley's physique, this year with Ashley, the main thing was they said, hey, if you don't need to change anything on your physique, but if Laura Lee's the champion, the one thing we could see is that you come in a little fuller on your legs next year, a little bit more developed on your legs. Just so you can be more comparable to Laura Lee. If you guys are going at it 1 and 2 next year, it would make sense that that's probably the only thing that you could do, but honestly don't change much. And that's exactly what we did. We didn't change much. Her legs are a little bit bigger. She's a little more muscular this year, a little more dense. That's basically what we brought. Her conditioning was, it was fine. I was in a good spot. I don't think it was in her best spot. She was a little bit, gosh, it's really not even that soft, honestly. Like, it's not bad. I think she could have been a tiny bit tighter. The only reason I'm saying she could be a little bit tighter, so if I compare her to Maureen, she can't be any tighter. That's the problem. If I compare her to Ashlyn and Jazzy, yeah, she could be a tiny bit tighter, but I mean, not much. I mean, she's already showing some hamstring separation here. Like, you could see a vertical hamstring separation a little bit here already, so she can't get too much tighter. So, yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot. It just wasn't her day. I mean, if I could, redo time and know that, hey, the comparison's going to be, like, we're not beating Maureen because Maureen's already softer than you, less dense than you. We're have to try to beat Ashlyn and Jazzy. I would have been like, let's just go for that, and let's come in shredded and come in even tighter than normal, because we're fighting for second and third place are leaner than you, type of thing. That's like crystal ball stuff, I don't think, I wouldn't change much, guys. I mean, her conditioning looks really good. Her density is great. Her legs are up a little bit. We'll wait to hear feedback from everyone. I did hear feedback from one of the judges already, and they said don't change a thing. They loved her, and they said that she could still be champion, no problem. And she was someone they were talking about as being champion, like when she came out. So, that's the feedback I got. And that's the feedback we kind of got last year, too, is like, don't change much. So, we're not going to change much. Hard to say. Now, Amy Delgado. Okay, so I've been saying this since the Arnold. Obviously, Amy came out, and she was, like, when she first came out, she came out with a bang, right? And I thought she was overdeveloped with her legs. I thought she was overdeveloped with her shoulders. Over the last couple years, she's fine-tuned her physique. Do they not have a front pose for her at the Olympia? Hold on. They have to have a front pose for her at the Olympia. Let's see here. Come on. Here we go. All right, we got a front pose. When she came out, I was like, oh, wow. She nailed it. Now, she's super full, but her backside looks the best that it's looked. The last 2 shows, I've thought Amy has looked the best she's ever looked. The last 2 shows. So the Arnold and this show, I thought she's looked the best. There's really, at this point, with where bikini is in terms of the standards, I don't see a whole lot of change necessary on her. I used to think her legs were too muscular. I used to think her shoulders were too muscular. I used to think she was too X-framed. All of that is like fixed now, right? That was 2-3 years ago. Now her legs are more fine-tuned. Her glutes are showing good tie-in development. It's not too soft on the back. The density's there. The shoulders, they're muscular, but bikini's gotten a little bigger, so the shoulders make sense now. At one point, her shoulders got small, like, it was like last year before the Olympia. I saw her at a gym, and I was like, wow, she's like 2 downsized now. She actually has small shoulders. So she can take them down and put them on really fast. Like, she puts them on and takes them off like Legos kind of thing. But this is a good balance for Amy. I wouldn't change anything. Maybe a tiny bit more core detail, and that could just be from the carb loading, potentially. I know that she loads carbs pretty heavy, but from the backside, and I was telling Drew, I was like, dude, she looks crazy good. Like, this is pretty much what we wanted to see in terms of definition in bikini. A full tie-in without an etched tie-in, good rounding of the hamstrings, fullness and density of the glutes. I told you, as I spoke earlier, the only one that has that type of density of the glutes is like her and Ashley, that when they walk, the glutes stay full. You don't see the separation lines coming down in the glute here. And what I mean by that, maybe I can go back and show. But yeah, with Amy, I mean, this physique is capable of winning the Olympia, but not if Maureen's winning. Because this is, again, another scenario where she's past Maureen. So how do you coach someone who's already past Maureen, who's doing well, to beat Maureen when she's already way past her in terms of the physique development? Do you reduce everything? Like, do you just reduce everything to be more competitive with someone and take that risk? Not a risk that I would take. I'm not going to be taking that with Ashley. I'd rather just get second place and just go for that. I mean, it just doesn't it's not logical to try to go for that type of risk. So, yeah, we got ourselves a little bit of a Rubik's Cube with Maureen, because no one looks like Maureen. No one. Like, no one looks like Maureen. So let's go ahead and go into, actually, if I can find a picture, what I'm talking about with those glutes when they're walking. I don't know if we'll see a picture here. And again, remember, these are rough videos because I'm not taking the time to do these full edits and stuff, so I'm kind of, but that's what, it gets it out fast, and I don't have to, I'll actually do the videos if I can do it this way. Does she walk? Maybe we'll see it here. Yeah, we can see it here. So, you see how this part of the glute, this is what I'm talking about. This part of the glute here, you're seeing like the separation line, and it kind of, we call it a fall off, where the glute kind of falls off that fullness when they take those steps. You don't see that with Amy. You don't see that with Ashley. This is something where in the walk, everything becomes more apparent. When the girls are moving, you'll see it. And, Laura Lee on this upper glute has always been kind of her downfall. She's always been like bottom glute heavy. Like, this part of her glute is always more developed than this upper part of her glute. And when she walks, you could really see it. So, it's just you can't hide it. But everything else on her is so good that she can offset that. So that's kind of what you look at when you see, or what you don't see when you see Amy. Amy has a full hardness to her glute. Ashley has that full development to her glute. I don't remember Jazzy's, and I don't want to say it until I see video of her. But I'll say this too, Jazzy, and Jazzy was someone where I was like, okay, she's either back at that top 3 ranking, and before the show, I was like, she's either back at that top 3 ranking, or she's going to be 6th again, because she was too dense at the Arnold. So either they tone that down and she's going to be right back up, or they keep it the same and she's going to be, at 6th place. So I'm glad to see that they toned it down. Her density of her shoulders is toned down. Everything else is the same. I think that was really the only major issue. I talked to her a little bit, and she said she did tone down the shoulders a little bit. She brought an awesome package. Like, it was a really, really good package. This is another one where I'm like, how is she going to beat Maureen? You know what I mean? Like, how do you beat Maureen when you're past Maureen already? That's the problem you run into with Maureen. So everything's there. The overall, the physique is there. The shoulder width is there. The conditioning is spot on. It's very tight conditioning. Her glute density is very good. I would probably put her a little bit behind, when I'm looking at the pictures now, a little bit behind Amy on the glute density. Still, though, really good glutes. I mean, really, really good glutes. Conditioning is perfect. The tie-ins, this is what we're talking about. We want tie-ins that are there, but not etched tie-ins, right? So you want to see the full line of the tie-in without like an etching of the tie-in. And, solid physique. There's really not much to say here about her physique, but they've done a great work from the Arnold till now. Toned down her shoulders a little bit. She looks very balanced at this point. And yeah, this is someone that could be an Olympia champion, within the next couple of years. The problem is the Rubik's Cube of Maureen. It's a real issue, guys. Like, I don't know how you attack that. That's the problem. It's like, how do you beat someone who on paper you're already better than in every category, right? So let's go ahead and go into Ashlyn's look. I was seeing pictures of Ashlyn before the Olympia, and I was like, geez, Ashlyn looks crazy right now. Like her check-in photos and stuff that she was posting, like her waist was so small from her profile, from her like front pose profile. It was crazy small. Her conditioning came in like crazy. Her glutes were super full. Waistline looked great. I mean, there's really not a lot she can do here to improve this physique. Ashlyn has always been very shouldery. I've always said that about Ashlyn's shoulders. They're very capped off. Like very, very, very capped off. She's also shorter though. So, smaller muscles are more round. They're going to have more capping. She has very dense shoulders, right? Her glute from the front, you could see, this is the area that I talk about on Ashlyn that could use a little bit more development. You could see, again, a little bit bottom glute heavy, can use more right here in that mid glute. And you could see it in that front profile. I think that her quad looks really good. I think it's in the perfect spot. It's developed for a smaller girl. It's round. It's not overly developed, not overly dense. Her hamstring from the front, it's round. I could see it being a little rounder from the front, a little bit more roundness and a little bit more development to this upper glute here that will fill that area out. That's kind of like the only thing. One of the things I'll say too about Ashlyn's overall look is that there's a couple things that I would say are that could be a little bit better in terms of her overall look, and these are little things that I've been doing this my whole life. So I see them when she's on stage that are like, and when I see them on stage, I think it's too much. It catches my eye too often. And this is going to be weird feedback, but this is just something that I see as a coach, and it caught my eye, and I think it could change her look. It'll just be less distracting. Her look is so good. She doesn't need so much, right? So one of the things is her I feel like her earrings were big to the point where they're touching her body when she's moving, and she's smaller too. So if a earring is on my wife at 5'10", that's that long. That's not a big deal. But if it's on someone who's 5'1", 5'2", I don't know her height, 5'1", 5'2", it's touching her neck when she's moving, and I feel like they're just too long, and it gets distracting. You got to remember too, when someone's smaller, everything's smaller. Their head's a little smaller, so the earrings are bigger, right? So these earrings, I feel like they're just too big for her, and they're touching her body, right? I feel like the other thing too, she's got a really beautiful smile, really bright teeth, and also what happens is when you wear a lip color that is, or glossier lip, it catches the light on stage. So when the lights are hitting you and you have really bright teeth and then your lip is also reflective of those lights, it creates a lot of white, and it kind of distracts me too. So that's a weird one, but I've seen it happen on multiple people that they have a glossy lip and it just catches the light and then it just looks like a bigger smile than it actually is. And it becomes a little bit, it just catches my eye. And these are little stupid things, but we're talking about putting a whole package together at the highest level. I think that this would help. The other thing is too, her body's so good. I don't think 2 bracelets are necessary for her. I would think 1 dainty bracelet would be enough for her, or even none, honestly. Her body does all the talking. You don't need all these extra things. And then on the other side of things too, when we look at her in the back, her hair could be a little cleaner in the back. And I don't mean cleaner like it's dirty. I mean cleaner like it's messy, right? So let's go ahead and see this in the back. So you see her hair here? You have basically 2 bunches of hair that come down. You see how it's 2 separate? I just feel like you could comb this out a little bit, create more fullness. And then you could also see where the extensions come in. Here's the regular natural hair, then the extensions come in under that. I think you could blend that a little bit better. Layer these extensions a little bit, create some depths where you can not just see the upper hair and then the lower hair, and then it'll just blend a little bit better. Comb that a little bit through where you can cover these gaps and cover a little bit more width on her back too. Not a lot, a little bit. And these are all little things. Would it have been enough to beat Maureen? I don't think so. I don't think there's any scenario where Ashlyn's beating Maureen, because Maureen won with the perfect score, and Ashlyn's physique is far past Maureen's physique. It's not even in the same ballpark of physique. When you compare, okay, let's compare density of Ashlyn and compare density of Maureen. Okay, sorry about that cutoff, weird transition right now. You guys are probably seeing everything froze for a second. I was in panic mode. All right, so anyway, Ashlyn's physique is far past Maureen's in terms of the density of the glutes, the fullness of the glutes, the roundness of the hamstring, the tie-in development, right? The development of the shoulders. It is a completely different physique when you compare these two. So, Maureen won with a perfect score. So, like a perfect, she got to the middle and she never moved, guys. She got right to the middle. Actually, she was in the middle from like just how the callouts naturally happen, and she just stayed there. Everyone moved around her. She never moved. But I mean, when you're comparing these two side by side, it's one of those physiques where it just looks completely different. So I don't know 100% what that means. But let's go ahead and let's just like look at it, right? Let's pull Ashlyn and Amy up. I'm sorry, Ashlyn and Amy up. That's what I thought it could have been. All right, we'll pull Ashlyn and Maureen. And I mean, okay, let's look at the shoulder development. Let's start with the front. Shoulder development. Who wins that? Who's more developed? Ashlyn, right? Let's look at the conditioning and the size of the waistline. Ashlyn is, I mean, way smaller, right? I mean, is there even a question here on who is tighter in the core and who is like wider in the core too, right? Ashlyn wins that. Let's look at the glute profiles. Let's look at the roundness of the glute comparatively to Maureen and Ashlyn. Who wins that? Ashlyn, right? Let's look at the roundness of the hamstring from the front profile. Who wins that? Ashlyn, right? Let's look at the quad development between the two. Who wins that? Ashlyn. There's not a scenario that Ashlyn could have brought her physique to beat Maureen if this is what they want. That's kind of a surprise because that hasn't been awarded all year. Someone with this level of physique in terms of their development hasn't been awarded all year. And so let's go ahead and go into the backside. And here we go from the backside. So when we look at the overall hip width to waist ratio, right? So how the hip width to the waist is, right? Ashlyn wins that. When we look at the tie-ins, like when we look at the fullness of the tie-ins, Ashlyn wins that. Maureen doesn't have a tie-in at that lower portion, right? At this lower portion here, there's no edging to Maureen's tie-ins. It's one straight line going from her glutes to her hamstring, right? There's no tie-in there. When we look at the fullness of the hamstring from the back, you could see Maureen does have some good roundness to her hamstrings. Ashlyn's is a little bit more prominent in that. So it's one of those things where, hey, they say, hey, this is the new bikini champion, right? There's not really anything that Ashlyn could have done. It's just she brought the best physique she could. And if this is what they want from bikini, they want this level of development, then, I think it's good for bikini. It's going to tone it down a little bit. So is this actually a reset? Is that what they're doing? Maureen's one of those physiques that they just like? Because I don't think it's a reset with Maureen being the champion because of the girls that were around her. That's the thing. Because that's where everyone's up in arms. They're like, oh, they're resetting bikini. And I'm like, well, are they really? Because the same people were in the first call-out that we would expect it to be in the first call-out. If they were resetting bikini, you would have had Maureen with smaller, less dense competitors. There was a few competitors that would make sense next to Maureen more than Ashlyn. Like when you talk about similarity in the physiques, like someone like a Jessica Wilson makes a lot of sense next to Maureen. As like if this is the standard in terms of development and density, then Jessica would make a ton of sense here. But you have a pretty big difference in physique from 1 and 2 to 2 and 3 to 3 and 4 to 4 and 5. I guess I'm saying that wrong. From position 1 is significantly different than positions 2 through 5. 2 through 5, when you line them up on stage, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. This is bikini. This is the division. Development in the tie-ins, glutes, development, like density, roundness of the hamstrings, good conditioning where you could see the tie-ins, but not too much. And then you have Maureen there, and it does stand out. But that's not the first time this has happened. It did the same thing happen with Janet. Janet was on the other end of it. She had like more tie-ins than everyone. With Issa, her conditioning was, she was more X-framed and more conditioned than everyone. And then with Jennifer was softer than everyone. So I don't think it's a reset. I just think they like Maureen. They like her physique. They like her flow. Maureen has that pretty muscle. That's the thing we always talked about. That hasn't been awarded for some time. I had Maureen going into this show as probably 6th or 7th. I think I had her as 7th place. And it was based on her conditioning. I didn't think the pretty muscle that Maureen has would have carried her through beating the density and the muscularity and the tie-in development and density that we have of today's bikini. So if Maureen's the standard, you know, I think that's great for bikini. I don't want to ever make it sound like it's like a Maureen bash. I love Maureen as a person. I'm going strictly off the physiques. As a champion, Maureen is such a genuine, nice person, and she doesn't take it too seriously. She loves to compete. She competes because she loves it, but it's not like she says, you know, if I win, great, and if I don't, that's great too. I'm doing it because I love it. That's really it. And so that's what I love about Maureen. Where other girls, they don't win, they're like their life is over type of thing. She's like, oh, I'll just do the next one. Like she's very nonchalant about it, and she's very serious about it, but she's also like it's not going to end her world if she, you know, loses the title or gets 7th place, you know. So I love her attitude about it. She's like just her against her type of attitude. But when I talk about physiques and what's been being awarded for a while now, does she line up with what's being awarded, or is this something different? I would say this is something a little bit different. You know, her conditioning is a little softer. She doesn't have that roundness to her hamstring. She doesn't have that glute fullness. And when you see her in the walk, out of everyone in the walk, she has the lowest glute density, not even out of the top 10, but probably out of the top 20. Like you could see her glute density here in this upper glute. The density is just not there. You know, the upper glute development really lacks. When you see someone like Ashlyn and, you know, I'm sorry, when you see like Amy and Ashley or someone, you know, even Ashlyn, like Ashley, no, I don't want to get it wrong too. Ashlyn has good glute density. She's just lacking in one area. When we're talking about perfection, Amy and Ashley are a little bit more of that fullness. But Maureen, in terms of the density of this upper glute when she walks, I mean, it's nowhere near anyone in the top 10. So, yeah, that's, you know, but we got to figure out what they want. Are they doing a reset? Are they just like the pretty muscle of Maureen? Because she does have very pretty muscle. The skin complexion, the beauty of Maureen, the lines of Maureen are world class, you know. But yeah, the density isn't there. The muscle isn't there. The tie-ins, they aren't there. I'm not going to be blind to that. They're 100% not there. So is this now the new standard? That's the question, right? Is that the standard? And if so, what does that mean for bikini? And if so, what does that mean for fit model? Because this is a little bit more of a blurred line now between bikini and fit model, if this is what they want, right? So, yeah, we have ourselves a Rubik's Cube, and if this is the champion where they say, hey, this is what we want, I don't know anyone who looks like Maureen. Maureen could hold it down for like 3 more years, right? Because who's going to beat her? Like, who do you know right now that could beat Maureen, who's already not past her level of development and conditioning and tie-ins and density? Like, who? Right? Can you even name anyone that's like close? I can't. So, yeah, we have ourselves a Rubik's Cube. So there you go. There's my analysis. I am, I want to make it sound like salty. I'm super happy with being top 5 with Ashley. I think that's awesome. Really happy anytime we can get a first call out or a medal. She's been third, second, 5th. She was 4th the year before that, and then 5th the year before that. So we've medaled 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row. Is that right? I think that's right. It's something like that. So super happy with the Olympia and how it went in terms of our placings, you know, and, you know, it's the Olympia. Anything can happen. I'm very curious to see how this year is going to go now with Maureen being the champion. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys liked that video. Thank you guys so much. As always, TeamElitePhysique.com for worldwide online coaching with me. I'll talk to you guys next time.